And so now we're going to turn and try and find out a little bit more about the fund itself. So to do that, I'm going to be inviting Catherine Harrington to join us. So Catherine is the campaign manager of the Global Campaign for Equality National Rights, which is housed in the Women's Refugee Commission. So Catherine, welcome. It's so good to see you. So Catherine, you've been a crucial part of this effort to set up the fund right from the very start. And now you're a member of the steering group for the Global Statelessness Fund. So can you help us understand the vision for the fund and also just give us a sense of what the journey's been like to take this fund from just an idea into the reality it is today?
Thank you, Tracy. And it's a tough act to follow, my dear colleague, Deepti Gurung, but I will try to do my best. Good day, colleagues. It's such a pleasure and a privilege to be with you here today to introduce and launch the Global Statelessness Fund. As Tracy said, I'll look forward to sharing a bit with you during my presentation about the vision, the need for the fund, and its journey from model to practice. So a big focus of the fund is to support, of course, impacted person-led groups. So I'm going to use that term a lot in my presentation. So first, I want to clarify what I mean when I say that. When I say impacted person, I'm referring to either stateless persons or people from stateless communities or those who are impacted by discriminatory nationality laws. So the fund started off just as an idea when a small group of people who have been working in the statelessness and nationality rights sectors, impacted activists, those working with NGOs and donors, came together to try to help transform some factors that we believe are one, inhibiting the goal of efforts to end statelessness and advance equal nationality rights, and two, are contrary to the human rights-based values and principles that we ascribe to. So these factors are impacted person-led groups have insufficient resources, technical support, agency, and connections. Donor knowledge, commitment, and funding levels to statelessness and nationality rights is low, and the structural barriers to funding stateless-led groups and impacted person-led groups are high. Stateless-led groups and those impacted by discriminatory nationality laws are also rarely included or lead in policy and decision-making spaces. And their relationships with donors, NGOs, and the UN have historically been unequal. So this small group became the steering group of the fund, which presently counts 10 members, 4 impacted activists, 2 donors, 4 civil society representatives with expertise working on statelessness and equal nationality rights at the global level. And I think my colleague might be putting in a link in chat with the profiles of the steering group members. So the fund is grounded in the belief that the growing problem of statelessness can most effectively be addressed by bringing increased resources directly to impacted people and their organizations. Through these resources, these groups are better supported to advocate, organize, and mobilize to advance their own agendas and shape the work of others. We understood that this is both the right thing to do and the smart thing to do, because we believe that responses to statelessness and unequal nationality laws that carry the weight of lived experience are most likely to address the real needs of affected communities, inspire empathy, and lend urgency to the need for change. The fund's long-term vision is initiatives led by persons impacted by statelessness and/or discriminatory nationality laws, contributing to changes in law, policy, and practice at the national levels, enhancing the quality of life and the enjoyment of rights of impacted communities. We also have a vision of a broad base of donors that are committed to supporting the statelessness field, and structural barriers to funding the most hard-to-reach impacted person-led groups have been overcome. At the regional and the global levels, we hope to see a growing consensus that efforts to develop and pursue strategies to address statelessness and discriminatory nationality laws are centered and are led by impacted people. So how do we want to do this? The fund is advancing this vision through multi-year unrestricted funding. So funding for organizations where the organizations are making decisions about how the funds are spent, not funding projects. We appreciate the importance of core restricted funding, especially to the values of the fund. We're prioritizing impacted person-led groups while ultimately also providing a portion of resources to non-impacted person-led organizations that are playing a key role in working with impacted people to combat statelessness and advance equal nationality rights. The fund will provide technical support, networking, and peer learning spaces, and engage in funder advocacy. The fund has also developed a mechanism to overcome challenges donors face in reaching stateless-led and other impacted person-led groups. The fund also ultimately is seeking to support more equitable methods of impacted people collaborating with donors, NGOs, and for impacted persons' participation and leadership in national, regional, and international advocacy spaces. By doing this, we believe the fund can impact the field in the more immediate term in a few important ways. Stateless-led groups and those led by impacted persons are better resourced to pursue the change they want to see, resulting in their increased agency, capacity, and leadership in the sector. The fund will have laid the foundation for more sustainable funding to the statelessness field, and some of the most hard-to-reach stateless-led groups will have access to resources that in most instances would be impossible with traditional funding structures and requirements. Importantly, these efforts will shift power towards stateless-led and impacted person-led groups. So I want to tell you a little bit about the grant-making mechanisms, and then very, very excited to share with you a snapshot of our first group of grantee partners. It was important, I guess, first, I'll share a few kind of logistical notes about the fund. It was important to select a fiscal host to manage and disperse the funds. Open Collective Europe was selected as the best option after a rigorous search due to their commitment to our vision and the ability to facilitate the transfer of funds in very challenging contexts. We don't believe in lengthy application procedures, which can be a big human resource drain on already stretched organizations. Rather, the fund seeks out organizations whose work aligns with our mission. Our first group of grantees were selected through nomination and review by the steering group of the fund. The steering group members proposed groups that are led by impacted people, do rights-based work on citizenship and nationality issues with their community, and share the values of the fund. A due diligence process was undertaken with selected grantees, and we discussed with them the best means of providing the grant, responding to the challenges that they face. A fund management committee was established to review the case for the selected grantees and the due diligence that was conducted, and gives final approval for the grantee. The management committee is made up of one representative of Open Collective Europe, the fiscal host, one representative of the steering group, which is actually comprised of 3 steering group members, but with 1 vote on the 3-member management committee, and a third external party, the executive director of the Social Change Initiative, who has significant experience in movement building and human rights-based work. Before talking about our first grantees, a few words on how things will go during the grant cycle. The fund staff works with grantees to develop a vision statement to learn from them about their priorities for change. This informs the accompaniment support for the grantee during the grant cycle, including linkages with global and local experts who may strengthen grantees' work according to their priorities. Grantees will be connected together for peer learning and joint advocacy. We do not require grantees to write lengthy and time-consuming financial or narrative reports. Instead, our team will regularly meet with grantees to discuss what is working and what needs changing. Through this, we will stay up to date with the impact of the funds, the needs and priorities of our grantees, and this will help us enable us to make the strongest case to donors to grow the fund.